You know those moments, right? When you're just totally baffled by a child's huge, sudden emotional reaction. 1 second, everything's fine, and the next, there's a complete meltdown over something that seems so tiny. If that sounds at all familiar, then you're in the right place. Yeah, this quote, it just gets right to the heart of it, doesn't it? That feeling like you're constantly walking on eggshells, that your child is just too something, too angry, too sensitive. It's such a tough place to be for you and for them. So let's start right there. First, let's just validate that experience, because it is real. To really get a handle on these big feelings, we have to look at how they're showing up day to day. I mean, does this question hit home for you? That feeling that your entire family's mood, maybe your whole day's schedule, is basically being held hostage by your child's emotions? It is exhausting, and it can leave you feeling completely out of control. But here's a really powerful way to reframe this. What if those outbursts aren't about defiance? What if they're actually a signal? They're what happens when a kid is just completely overwhelmed by feelings they literally don't have the words for or the skills to manage yet. So, if we're talking about a developmental struggle, what is it actually called? Well, there is a name for this experience, and just understanding the name can be a huge first step. Let's talk about emotional dysregulation. Okay, here's the core idea. Emotional dysregulation is, at its heart, a mismatch. The emotional reaction is just way bigger than whatever it was that triggered it. You can kind of think of it like a fire alarm going off for a burnt piece of toast. The brain is just having a really hard time hitting the brakes on a feeling once it gets going. So what does this actually look like in your house, day to day? Well, it can be those super intense outbursts over something that seems really minor, like a broken crayon. Or maybe you see the flip side, a child who just bottles everything up until one tiny frustration causes this massive explosion. This chart makes that out of proportion idea crystal clear. Look at the trigger, losing a game. A typical reaction? Sure, a little disappointment. But a dysregulated one? Tearing up the game board and screaming. It's that huge dramatic difference that tells you something deeper is going on. And this is so crucial. When you see these behaviors, try to shift your first thought away from discipline or punishment. Instead, try asking yourself, what's the missing skill here? Because this isn't a behavior problem, it's a developmental challenge. Okay, so recognizing the signs is a huge first step, but that leads to the next big question, right? When do these behaviors cross the line from just being a typical part of growing up to being a sign that it might be time to seek some professional support? Here are some really clear signs to watch for. And it's not just about if these things happen, it's about how often and how intense they are. Are meltdowns a regular feature of your week? Does it take an incredibly long time for them to calm down? Is there hitting or kicking involved? These are all really strong signals that an evaluation could be helpful. And you know what? Here's the ultimate test. Are these big feelings spilling over and causing real problems in other parts of your child's life? When it starts to affect how they learn at school, or their friendships, or just your ability to have a peaceful family dinner, well, that's a major sign that some support is needed. Now, I know the idea of getting help can sound kind of vague, maybe even a little intimidating. So let's just demystify it. What does that path to support actually look like? It's actually a really clear, structured process. It's not just guesswork. A professional will start by just talking and listening to really understand the patterns. They might observe your child, screen for other related things like ADHD or anxiety, and then, this is the most important part, they create a practical plan with tools for the whole family. And that's the end game. The entire process is really about empowerment. The goal is not to fix a bad kid. It's to give your child the skills they need to feel in control of their own body and emotions, and to give you the confidence you need to guide them through it. Which brings us to our final and maybe our most important idea. It's a hopeful reframe that honestly changes everything. Regulation is not a personality trait. It is a skill that can be taught. Let that one sink in. It is the core of all of this. We don't expect kids to be born knowing how to read, do we? So we shouldn't expect them to be born knowing how to manage intense anger or disappointment either. It's a skill. And like any other skill, it has to be taught and it has to be practiced. All right, let's just do a quick lightning round of some common questions. People always ask, is it just a strong personality? Well, not when it's causing so much genuine distress. Won't my child just grow out of this? Maybe, but most kids really need help learning the tools to manage their emotions as life gets more complex. And that's what it all comes down to. It's a message of hope, and it's a message of action. It's about shifting our focus from trying to manage bad behavior to teaching a vital life skill. The challenge is absolutely real, but so is the path forward. The only question left is, are you ready to help them learn?